Hello. So I've had a couple of reviews in the pipes for a little while, and I decided to kind of turn them into a response to a recent video by Ralphie. Ralphie Mitchell, the most well-known and probably most long-standing Scotch malt reviewer on the YouTubes. So he recently reviewed, or rather re-reviewed, Benromach 10-year-old. Benromach 10-year-old is a product from technically a Speyside distillery way up north, kind of on the northwest side of the Speyside. And he said many things about it. In fact, I mean, at this point, there's like a Ralphie drinking game, and one of those things is take a sip every time Ralphie complains about chill filtration. What is chill filtration? Chill filtration is the process whereby a producer, before bottling its spirit, will basically chill the spirit down to a very, very cold temperature and then run it through barriers to basically pull off some of the oils in there. So it looks more shelf stable. It isn't really more shelf stable. All you're doing is you're avoiding getting that kind of cloudy thing when you get very oily whiskey in a bottle on the shelf. And Ralphie complains about that extensively in his re-review of Benromach 10-year-old. And I agree with him, by the way. Like chill filtering is just stupid. It's an additional step in the production process that makes the final product worse. Why? Why would you do it? I mean, if you're worried about the product looking weird and cloudy on the shelf, just put it in a tinted bottle. Just put it in a tinted bottle. There's no problem. Like if you're Glenfiddich or whatever, your bottles are already tinted. What the hell is the problem? Anyways, so I completely agree that chill filtration is stupid. And he also complained about the bottling strength. Of course, this is only bottled at a mere 43% alcohol. Did I mention his? So he has the updated presentation branding thing of this. I'm still using the old one. And then he gave it an 84 out of 100. We shall be talking about that score extensively. I reviewed this one and I scored it rather higher. This was back in my first Springbanky substitutes video. I think I gave this like an 87 plus-ish. I really like this stuff. So, and of course that doesn't seem that far away, but I'm usually a somewhat tougher critic than Ralphie is. And well, we'll get into the nature of the score in a little bit. So yeah, no, I agree with the substance of what Ralphie is saying about chill filtration and bottling at lower proof 43% or so. Now, could you defend Gordon and MacPhail on the nature of this whiskey, Benromach 10-year-old? I mean, to some extent, maybe. I mean, so I understand. I kind of get what they're going for here. And I've actually talked to some of the people who are reps for this. What Gordon and MacPhail are going for is an old school, style Speyside whiskey where, maybe there just wasn't a lot of other fuel available, so you would have to cool dry your barley out with a little bit of peat smoke, included with your other fuels. Where maybe the pot stills were a little bit smaller and squatter, so they had a more oily character. Somewhat in my heart of hearts, part of me wonders if they didn't have in mind those legendary years of Macallan right after the war, when of course Macallan was slightly peated. I don't know. I've never had those batches, but I've always wondered. So and of course, if they were going for that kind of 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe 60s kind of style, it makes sense to bottle it at 43%. I should go into the historical background here. So There was an event of rather important significance that happened in around 1916, which is when Lord George, who was not yet Prime Minister, but very important anyways, decided that no spirit in Scotland should be bottled higher than 75 British proof, which is right around 43% alcohol. So that was set as the absolute maximum you could bottle anything in. He tried to increase it to do even worse, to drop it down to 70 proof, so 40%. I don't think that stuck for as long. But after that, for a couple of decades, I still don't know exactly when it ended, but for a couple of decades, you legally couldn't bottle a bottle of Scotch any higher than 43%. So, and anything decent would take it as a point of pride that, of course, it would be bottled at 43%. So you go looking at vintage blends from that whole period up until the 80s. The 80s ruined everything. Everyone started, pushing things back to 40% then, but only then. But from basically the teens up until the 80s, like pretty much everything that took itself seriously was bottled at 43%. So you could say, well, of course, if you're trying to duplicate something like that style, you would bottle Benromach at 43% too. And maybe that's just a historical point to be made there, but it's also kind of dumb just because that was a legal requirement by Lloyd George, who knew nothing about the alcohol business. And before then, right? I mean, people would have just been bottling at whatever the hell strength they felt like. Like you in the year before that, you would have had people bottling at 50%, 60% if they wanted to, and that was normal. So there's no reason for Gordon and MacPhail to adhere to legal restraints which were not desirable for the people actually bottling whiskey back then. So anyways, this is to make the point that Ralphie is to some extent right about that. The problem, I'll pick this up again. The problem is that 84-point score. So just to give you an idea of what that means in Ralphie world, the year before, Ralphie did another review of a Knockando 12-year-old. I remember I watched it because I was thinking of buying one of the official Knockando bottlings just to have to review on this channel, and he gave it an 84. And the word he used for it was jobbing. It was a jobbing Speyside whiskey, and I haven't had any of the official Knockandos, but that's my impression. It's very malty, fruity, has kind of like a candy bar kind of aspect to it. It's fine, but it's not a thoroughbred by any means. The problem is, you would not. I do not regard this Benromach here as a jobbing whiskey. This is serious stuff. It's lightly peated. It's very characterful distillate. There's a lot of sherry on this, interacting with the very characterful distillate. This is a lot of whiskey for the price you're paying for it. And is the chill filtration annoying? Of course it is. Is the lack of declaration of no color added annoying? Yes, of course it is. Although I guess they changed that more recently. And the 43%, that's annoying. But is it the equivalent of Knockando 12-year-old? I can't see it. I just can't see it. And so part of me can't help but think that Ralphie is just getting so angry at the very idea of a whiskey with this kind of character, losing some of its oils due to the chill filtration process and then being watered down a bit, that he just is pulling points off just for that, and that's kind of there's a moment in there. There's a moment in there where he wants to describe this stuff as viscous, and he stops himself. Because he has to remember, oh, right, it's been chill filtered, so all the oils are pulled out. So it can't possibly be viscous, even though that's the perception of it I am getting as a reviewer. So, I don't know, like, it just feels like he's getting his opinions in the way of his presentation of what this is. And this is by no means a perfect whiskey, but it's not Knockando 12-year-old. You go back and you read Edmund Husserl, the great philosopher and phenomenologist, and he presents the principle of all principles, which is, he says it's the anything given is its own source of right for whatever it wants to give itself as. Anything given has to be taken exactly as it sort of originally gives itself. And that's hard to do. Like, that doesn't mean you have to go in with naive eyes. You have to go in with fairly experienced eyes. You don't have to go in. It doesn't mean you go in with your emotions cut off. You have to bring in your emotions, but in the right sort of way. You have to bring in your opinions, but in the right sort of way. Everything in you oriented towards trying to give the best presentation and translation of this as you possibly can. That is one of the many challenges of being a reviewer, and I can't see an 84 / equals Knockando 12 from this. I really can't. But it does give me an occasion to review some other stuff from the Benromach range, which is slightly better presented. So I don't know if Ralphie would be happy with these, but I'm going to review the Benromach Peat Smoke. This is a distilled 2008, bottled 2018. And I am going to review the first batch of the Benromach Cask Strength, distilled 2007 and bottled 2018. There's actually quite a lot of old Benromach stock floating around in the U.S. So my own Binny's store, footnote, I work for Binny's, but I'm in the wine department, so spirits doesn't really care what I say. But please stop bothering me about Turley. No, we don't have Turley. But so Binny's got a whole bunch of these, and they're kicking them out the door. I think the Cask Strength is the cheapest Cask Strength Scotch we have in the store. Period. K&L in California did even more. They were selling this stuff for like $40. $40 for a Cask Strength official bottling 10-year-old. So opportunity knocks. If you see these guys around, they may be worth buying. We shall see. So I mean, there's different marketing angles for. So the Benromach. Well, okay. Let me get these out of their stupid boxes and give them a pour, and I'll talk about why these might be interesting and why I'm reviewing them. So the Benromach Peat Smoke here. They've done some more recent bottlings of these, but I mean, so right now this is on the shelf at my store for $50, on sale for $45, which might in theory make it one of the best values in peated whiskey. So, back circa 2018, 2019, before Trump's stupid tariffs, this would have been competing head on with Ardbeg 10-year-old, right? And with Lefroy 10-year-old, and with that kind of competition, why would you bother with this? But now, Ardbeg 10 is around $60, and Lefroy 10 is around $65 now. And I haven't tried Ardbeg in a little bit, but Lefroy 10 certainly, for me, is not what it used to be. So, if you were in the market for a inexpensive, heavily peated whiskey, I mean, you can look at like Wee Beastie, a few other things in that range, but this starts to look really appealing, right? Full 10 years old, age stated, pretty heavily peated. I think this is like 47 ppm, something like that. They're not shy about it. So, but we shall see. And as we have to see what is in the glass, what sort of gives itself in the glass, and we shall go from there. This Benromach Batch 1 Cask Strength. Same kind of deal. Maybe you wouldn't have looked at it in 2019 too seriously, but when it's $70 in 2022, when $70 is the new $50, this starts to look like a much more attractive proposition. Let's give that a pour. All right, and we shall work our way through these. 15 minutes in, and I'm finally starting my reviews of these. Okay, Benromach Peat Smoke Speyside Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, 2008, bottled 2018. So it's a 10-year-old. So there are a couple of retail websites and information-y things reporting this is non-chill filtered and natural color. I don't see that anywhere on the bottle, so I don't know. There is a nice cloudiness to the whiskey, but they don't say anything, so I can't really tell you. Sorry, that is annoying though. Like, just Gordon MacPhail, if you're not, just tell us what the hell you're doing. Just be transparent, and let us make our own judgments. Yeah. Incidentally, there's chill filtration, and there's chill filtration. There's like the questions of how cold are you getting it? Like, how aggressive are your barriers? Like, there's degrees of chill filtration even. But the whole practice is stupid, so I don't want to talk about that too much. Okay, let's get into this. Benromach Peat Smoke. Here we go. On the nose. The nose is on this is surprisingly delicate for something that's supposed to be heavily peated. In fact, the regular 10-year-old, this actually comes across as more peated than the peat smoke for me. I mean, the peat is there, and it's lovely. It's a very different peat than what I usually think of. It's almost a dried grass sort of peat, and that's in contrast to, the very maritime seawater sort of peat you get with Isla, or the campfirey, twiggy, leafy thing you get with Highland Park or Talisker. It's very different from the barnyardy, stinky, but at the same time chocolate fudgy thing you get with mainland peaters like Ardmore. Yeah, this is more like grassy peat, for lack of a better word. It's slightly floral. There's a little bit of a potpourri thing. I would guess, I would be shocked if there was anything other than bourbon casks in this, and I'm certainly getting a lot of vanilla. Some pear, some Anjou pear coming in. Olive oil. There's a little bit of like a little green nuttiness happening, which, were not for the fact that there's no sherry on this, it would remind me a little bit of Springbank. White pepper. You know what this is reminding me of more so than Springbank is actually Bowmore. This reminds me of independently bottled, that sort of floral meets floral peaty thing. That's sort of more Bowmore than anything else. There's some minerality, some crushed rock. There's a little bit of like a lemon pith thing, so a little citrus. And some Candela cigars, so those like funky green cigars. La Flor Dominicana Candelas. One of my old favorites back when I still smoked cigars. It's a shockingly quiet nose for like something that's proclaiming itself like a peat smoky whiskey. This is not a peat bomb, whatever else it is. So if you come to it for that, like, you'll probably be a little bit disappointed. So bear that in mind. Let's see what happens on the palate. So it's good. It's very easygoing though, actually. Again, if you were looking for Ardbeg 10-year-old for $10 less or $15 less, however it's priced, this is not going to be the one. It's much more easygoing and less overtly peaty than that. So I'm getting like that same dried, grassy kind of peatiness. Lots of black pepper on this. what is that? It's almost like a Cupreata mezcal sort of note. It's got this citrusy, almost yogurty sour note, which is a lot of fun. But again, it's not yogurty citrusy. It's more like Cupreata based mezcal. Vanilla beans. There's some coffee in this, like fresh roast coffee. I'm sorry, I misread my notes. French roast coffee, not fresh. Fresh French roast. This is so. You go into this expecting a peat bomb, and it just isn't, and it's really weird. There's like this briny, rocky minerality. It's very viscous. The oiliness that is kind of the hallmark of Benromach is definitely in force here. Very nice mouthfeel. That floral thing again, touch of flowers, and even a little bit of like pear brandy coming in. Also very cool. Actually, you know what this reminds me of is a couple of years ago there was some peated Bladnucks. There was some peated Bladnucks, and it kind of had that same like grassy malt meets a little bit of peat kind of thing. So that's kind of my closest point of comparison, and it's not what I was expecting from this. All right, I'm sorry, I have to steal my eyedropper, which I did not have in proper position. We're gonna give this a squirt of water, come back to it. I think I like this, but it is not at all what you would be expecting. All right, let's move on to the Benromach Cask Strength Speyside Single Malt Whiskey Batch Number 1, 2007, bottled 2018. This is an 11-year-old whiskey, and I don't know if you can tell by the color, but there is a lot more sherry influence on this. This is bottled at 58.2% alcohol by volume, which is nice. On the nose, it really smells a lot like Benromach 10-year-old, except there's a lot more proof and a lot more oak, actually. A lot more oak. And part of that is just it's a year older, right? It's seen more time in there, but I also just wonder if there might have just been more active casks in this batch. So I'm getting raisinets, kind of that unroasted / green nuts thing I often get in Springbank. Sorry. There's some figs. There's little hints of like it's not grassy peat this time. This is barnyardy peat. There's like it's that sort of stinky Ardmore style peat. English breakfast tea, jalapeno peppers, burned flowers, so that floral note is back. Actually, just kind of ash more generally. There's a lot of ashy notes in this. Some nice oiliness again, coming through on the nose. It's almost like a burned oil note, like you had some oil in the pan and you just left it there getting hot for too long. A little minerality. It's almost a chalky note this time. Touch of what is that? Almost like a pickled ginger kind of thing. So in many ways, this feels like a more contemporary, more modernized oak forward kind of whiskey than I took from Benromach 10-year-old. And maybe that's what they were going for. Like it's a batch strength or cask strength bottling, right? Which is not anything like what you'd have seen in the post-war period, say. So maybe this time, because of the genre they were working in, they decided, hey, let's go all out. Let's throw some more oak into this, for the to be fashionable for the kids. All right, let's see what happens on the palate. that's real good. That's super good. And it's it is very, very loud in lots of ways. Same kind of story. There's a lot more, I mean, just alcoholic strength than the 10-year-old, and a lot more wood than the 10-year-old. Tons of sherry influence here. So we're getting raisinets, black pepper, figs, prunes, like a Snickers bar. Nuts, that green nuts kind of note. Old coffee grinds. Beyond that, the most prominent thing would be the sort of barnyardy peat kind of aspect. That kind of like, I don't, if you've had a lot of Ardmore, you'll know what I'm talking about, or even like, oh geez, the other peated Highland distilleries kind of escape me, but that kind of like, it's like some stinky poopy pigs are wandering around, but at the same time you're eating some fudge. That kind of like weird. That's a really gross combination, but that flavor profile is kind of showing up here in the peat. But at the same time, there's that grassy note I was getting a little bit. Grass, flowers. Actually, there's a lot of floral stuff coming through now that I'm paying attention to it. Oiliness, like olive oil. Extremely serious mouthfeel, as you'd expect. Again, doesn't say anywhere on here that this is non-chill filtered, so I can't tell you that. And it would be nice, right, if they just friggin' told us. Ash, lots of ash. Yeah, the extra wood on this makes this for me more commercial than the 10-year-old, but that doesn't necessarily make it worse. Commercial isn't always worse. Yeah, I think I'm into this. I think it's actually so it's less of a Springbank substitute than the 10-year-old is, but maybe that's okay. This is just a big modern whiskey, and I'm kind of enjoying that. Let me see if that's enough. 4 squirts, right? I'll go one more, like another half squirt. Okay. Yeah, there's no way that anything from this range is getting like an 84. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. Like, I mean, if the point is to just bully a brand into presenting it the way you want to, then okay, but it's not a proper review process. Then it's a performance of bullying. If he genuinely thinks that it's an 84-point whiskey, then I don't know what to say. Like, okay, like, so it's that or Knockando. Jesus. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm a little dumbfounded. Okay, let's go back to the peat smoke. See what happens now that I've had some water to it. On the nose, the peat is totally gone. Maybe not totally. I mean, it's very much receded in the background, though. And this has become more floral. What the heck? Okay, so now I feel like I'm nosing like this beautiful kind of rocky, floral, lemony, grassy, slightly ashy lowland whiskey now. Like, that's what this smells. This smells like a lowland whiskey, which I'm okay with because I love that genre. But I was not expecting that from a bottle that says peat smoke on it. All right, let's see what happens on the palate. Oh, that's good. I mean, it's again, the peat is almost gone. It's become, at most, a background note. This has become a lowland whiskey. This has almost become Bladnoch-like. That's the closest comparison I can come up with. It's still very oily. It still has a little teeny tiny hints of peat kind of playing like on the sides of your tongue. But it's now really dominated by citrus notes, the grass notes, the rock kind of notes, the minerality. The maltiness, the pear. I mean, it's good. This is really good, but it is not at all what I expected from this. And the people who buy this looking for a peat bomb are going to be disappointed. But I'm rather delighted. After the, what was it, the Douglas Lang Epicurean, I was wondering where I would be able to get my lowland malt fix from, and I think it might actually be from this. I mean, I don't know. So I'm kind of, score-wise, I'm kind of stuck between an 85 and an 86. So I'm going to give this an 85 plus. It's good. It's very easy drinking. It's very refreshing. But I don't think, especially with just the bourbon casks, Benromach loses something. Or at least in this case, I haven't had a lot, but seems to lose something maybe when it just doesn't have the sherry casks involved. So, not certainly a good whiskey, and a whiskey I'm delighted to have. 85 plus. All right, moving on to the Cask Strength Batch 1, now with some water. On the nose. Now it just smells like a sherry bomb. That's what it smells like. I mean, the peat and the oiliness and the nuts they're still there, but they're now mainly just kind of adding color to the aggressive, dried, fruity kind of sherry notes. Also a little bit of like beef bouillon kind of notes coming out too. So fruity, but also savory. And that's, I'm okay with this. This is, I mean, you bring this over to the folks who love Aberlour Albana, and they're going to be super duper happy with this. And I'm also super duper happy with this. On the palate, yep, that's a sherry bomb. But it's a good one, and a very interesting one, because it still has that kind of the grassy thing and the floral thing and the peaty thing. Actually, the peat is more prominent on this than the peat smoke. With water, there's more pepper, there's more dried fruit. It does, so this was already, the amount of wood on this was already losing the kind of Springbanky aspect to it. And water kind of loses that even more. But I also think this might appeal to a wider crowd a little bit. And I think it's just a little bit better than the standard 10-year-old. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. I see no reason not to give it a good... I wrote down 88 points, but I'm actually going to bump that up to 88 plus, because I'm rather impressed with the way it develops with water. The mouthfeel just gets that little bit more thick and impressive. Yeah. 88 plus for this, for the Cask Strength Batch 1, and 85 plus for the Peat Smoke. And that's my reviews. Thanks for watching, and I don't know. It's maybe one day I'll do a Knockando. We shall see, and maybe I will be really impressed with it. Thanks for watching, and cheers.